Now, Anthony, you always say, Glenn, you're spaced out. I think today you might be right.
I am ultra excited about today.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here, your co-host of No Vacancy Live. That's the one, the only Anthony Melchiori. We tried splitting him, but you know what? We couldn't get the transporter to do that properly to get two Anthony's over there. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. I like your logo. Can we take it off the front page?
Oh, I totally forgot to take that off. All my fault, because producer Suzanne's not here today, and I'm trying to run the show myself. Hey, I want to thank everyone again for being here. If you didn't catch yesterday's show, Anthony, how much fun was that? Having Ray Pino, the president and CEO of Mohegan Gaming and Entertaining, on, the company that oversees Mohegan Sun and Connecticut, and all those great properties around the world.
I tell you, they're opening up a place in Korea, and I can't wait to see it. And hopefully, we'll do a podcast from there. But
Yeah.
what I loved about it, I spent the night there last night and drove back home this morning. The hotel still looks like they just took the plastic off of it. It's 30 years old or 25 years old and looks brand new.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible how awesome that particular property looks. But you know what else is awesome, Anthony? Making an investment in Radisson Hotels America, soon to be part of the Choice Hotels family. They've got great brands that are going to help you make even more money once that deal is closed. Think about brands as Radisson Red, Radisson Blue, Country Inn, and Suites. They got a whole portfolio of products just waiting for you to connect with them. Learn more at RadissonHotelsAmerica.com/EN-US/development and tell them No Vacancy sent you.
So before you announce our next guest, I'm going to
Yep.
tell you in 10 seconds or less how we met.
All right.
Through social media,
Yep.
we DM'd each other, and then we had breakfast, I believe, in New York. He'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And then we became fast friends, and we've been friends now. I think it's going on 8 years.
Wow. That's pretty cool. All right. Without further ado, today's guest is Brannon Braga. You might know him as producer, director, and screenwriter, best known for his work in the Star Trek franchise. I sure do. Most recently, he's doing shows with the ORVILLE now, being a showrunner and all that pretty cruel stuff. And most recently, he wrote and directed The End Is Nye, airing later this month on Peacock. What a great name for a show, The End Is Nye, starring Bill Nye. What a great play on words there, Brannon. Love it.
A little lazy, but I couldn't think of anything better.
Well, first of all, you know, when I called you up and they said, "Hey, would you want to be on my show?" You were like, "What the hell am I going to talk about on a travel and hospitality show?" But you love travel and hotels almost as much as we do, maybe more than we do, and you do a lot of it. So I wanted to get your perspective. But was my recollection of how you and I met, is that correct?
Yes. I was from my perspective, I was watching your show. I was a fan of your show, and I don't remember. It was like 2015. I want to say 2015, and I was watching. I don't know what season it was. Maybe season. I don't remember, but I was just a fan of yours. I was a fan of the show, and I think I direct messaged you on Twitter or something.
Yeah, something like that. And
I just was the way you are with people was really the show's about hotels, but it's really about people, of course, and families. And I just liked your style. I liked the way you problem solved. And I'm like, I'd love to meet this guy.
Yeah, and we had coffee and we became fast friends. And
but I don't remember the hotel we met at. It might have been the Nomad.
Probably, yeah, because that was at the time that was kind of my office. I was always at the Nomad, and they actually shut that hotel down. They're rebuilding it into something else. But and actually the Ritz-Carlton, which we just did last week, you have to stay at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad when you're in New York. It's beautiful.
Okay.
And we just did a show from there. We met the owners. They're wonderful people, and they own a lot of hotels, Ritz-Carltons in Florida. But we became fast friends, and I remember we've had a lot of conversations. But I remember I came to your set. Your ORVILLE set, and I've also came to your set in Louisiana, and you came to my set in Louisiana because I was doing a show in Louisiana. It was the crazy guy that kicked off a shoe at the pool. And I remember, like, your show obviously is a scripted show, and you're a writer, and it's very on point. And then you came to my show, and you were behind the camera, And just having you on my set was kind of like, was an honor. And I remember your former assistant, and you were standing in the corner. And you remember when I was finally done? It was an hour, like an hour of this scene. I just went out of control. Do you remember what you said to me when I stopped?
No.
You said, "So, how long did it take you to write that scene?" Do you remember that?
Yeah, I kind of do. Yeah, it was a dumb question, actually.
How long did it take you to organize that scene? I was like, "No, we just said action and everything." Well, hell broke loose.
Yeah. It was a bad. I'm trying to remember the name. I was looking online to find the name of the episode, and I don't remember the name of the hotel, but what a mess. I mean, I thought it was such a disaster. I wasn't even sure how you were going to air it because the owner wouldn't come out of hiding.
Right.
And there were all sorts of. I mean, did you air that episode? Did you ever end up? Were you able to fix that place? Because I left before I saw the turnaround.
What we did is
after Anthony left, he did such a good job. It became a 4 seasons.
No, what we did was we saved the young lady because, as you probably remember, it was a very difficult place for this young lady to be, and we saved her. We kind of got her out of the situation. Yeah, but I remember you, and I was so honored by it because you were like, it's so because people think sometimes it's it's fake, and you were on scene seeing it and you couldn't get over how real.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I was joking. I one of the things. I mean, look, you never know how much is guided by producers, but I was impressed at how truly spontaneous it all was, and how some of the interpersonal issues that were coming up were catching you off guard, and it was tricky, and it was great to see.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've both seen each other at work, and we're both I think the same level of intensity, completely two different genres. But when you're at work, I stay back, and when I'm at work, you stayed back, and it was very interesting that our personality.
I was shooting. I think I was directing the finale of a season, and you were doing your thing, and we were jumping back and forth because you were down the hotel's actually across the bridge, is right down the street.
Yeah, and I remember my daughter was with me because you allowed me to bring my daughter, and my daughter wanted to be in theater, and she is in theater, and she wanted to be an actress, and she is, and she's running off-Broadway theater in the city. And the gentleman, I can't remember his name.
Newt Dorset, the owner of the hotel.
No, but the gentleman that you introduced, like one of your actors, the gentleman that's married to Ron Howard's daughter. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Seth Gable.
So I remember my daughter was thinking about what college to go to, and he went to NYU. And he was saying things about NYU, and he says the best thing I learned, or the best thing I found at NYU was my wife and his wife. And I looked him up, and his wife was Ron Howard. So anyway, that relationship, my daughter's talked to him for like 20 minutes, and he gave her the real down and dirty about acting, and I think that really helped her.
That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, no, I remember your daughter well, and I'm glad that she made it into theater.
Yeah, and you were mentoring a director, a young lady who wanted to be a director, and she was taking incredible notes the entire time we were on set, and you were very generous with your time to both me and her. But anyway, so I want to get your perspective. There's two things. One, Glenn's going to handle the Star Trek stuff and your writing stuff, and I'm going to handle
not just that, but your career, because I've been following it.
Your career, right? Because as soon as I mentioned your name, he flipped out. But I go, I never told you I knew him. He goes, no. And I want to know.
We would have had you on the show much sooner than this if I'd known.
One of the things I'm fascinated because you're truly a student of everything. Like if you're going to do anything, it's going to be with, you're going to pay attention. So what is in traveling? What have you noticed from hotels and airlines? And what have you noticed? Have you noticed a change in the last 5 years or a few years after COVID?
That's a great question. I mean, look, I travel for my work constantly, did anyway. And so much so that I don't take as many vacations as I used to because I end up in great places where I'm filming and I can take, explore whatever city I happen to be in. Look, my experience has been largely good. The airlines that I've flown have been very buttoned up. Now I'm flying first class. I'm lucky in that regard. But I did have some pretty serious delays in my last trip to Montreal, Canada. It was on Air Canada, and it was pretty brutal. Flight cancellations, flight delays, sitting on the tarmac for 2 hours, things I've never experienced before in my 30 years of traveling. And but everybody's going through it.
Yeah, and that's what we're finding. And we're Diamond members, and we fly all the time. Flew 130,000 miles in January, so we're experiencing. We said the same thing to each other recently. We said, I'm experiencing stuff I've never experienced before.
Yeah. My big experience that I hadn't experienced before is my flight got canceled while I was on the plane. That's never happened to me before. They're like, "Hey, thanks for being here, but you got to go."
Well, what are the reasons? Because the reason I don't accept, and I don't accept it at restaurants either, is, well, we're just really busy.
Right.
Which is what you want to be. So take that excuse off the table. Yeah, you're busy. Congratulations. Business is thriving. Is it a personnel shortage? What is it?
It's during the pandemic. A lot of people retire. They severanced a lot of people, and they did not really schedule or anticipate the pent up demand of travel. And people at price at any, they didn't care. Nobody cares about price. Right after COVID, people were paying. If you went to the Maui Four Seasons, it was $1,200 pre-pandemic. Now it's $4,000 for.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know how people can afford this. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I have a friend who's a high net worth individual, and he stopped going. He went somewhere else because he was like, you know what? I can afford to spend the money for a week, but I'm not doing it. He goes, I'm not spending $60,000 to sleep in a bed.
Yeah, you could put a down payment on a new house.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious, as being someone that travels so far, what is it that you think hotels do really right? Beyond the customer service, more like the way hotel rooms are designed and put together. What are some of your thoughts and habits, again, when you're on the road going to these places?
You should have stayed at the Hilton Hotel in Vegas during the 1990s when it was Star Trek.
The original Las Vegas Hilton, now Westgate.
Yeah. And it was all about Star Trek, Star Trek restaurant.
Oh yeah, they had the whole experience there. I had a drink at Quark's. I loved it.
Okay, good. Well, I will say this: the hotels I've stayed at have not had any of the problems I've had on airlines. The service has been impeccable. No issues for me anyway at the hotels. And your question was, what do I like? What was your question?
What do you really like about the hotel experience for you personally?
I mean, look, it's got to have a good bed. It's got to have just a nice room with service that is attentive but not obtrusive, and quick check-in, nice bed, clean room. A room, and that's all you want. That's all I need. If there are amenities, great. There weren't for a long time during COVID. There was no mini bar. There were no, all the food was cleared out.
Yeah.
Now it's back. I just, it's not that hard to please me as a customer.
But it's easy to displease you.
Well, look. There's nothing worse than traveling for a long, long time and coming to a hotel lobby and there's a long line at the check-in. That's always a bad start. But I can tell at a new hotel if it's going to be a nice experience or not right away. I can tell by the lobby how clean it is. And by the way, I've learned a lot by watching every single episode of your show. I really did. I see things I never saw before. I mean, we went to the hotel down the street here in Beverly Hills that I just assumed was a 5-star perfect hotel, and you were saying, why is that window open onto a patio with dirty furniture that isn't covered?
I remember that.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that's an eyesore. in
I
the dining
remember
room.
they just renovated the restaurant. I remember that moment. We're having breakfast, and I couldn't concentrate because I didn't understand how I can see this patio that's not ready and set up from this beautiful breakfast room, and it was driving me nuts. I remember that.
I was just in San Diego at a hotel that of course, I can't remember what it was for Comic-Con. And it was, I bet you can tell me based on one detail. So terrific check-in, great service, excellent room service, fast, but the shower was in the middle of the room with glass walls around it. I'm like, this is nuts. I mean, it had a curtain you could pull.
Right.
Does that ring a bell? Because
Is that the Langham?
No.
Hendry?
Yes.
Yeah.
And great. I mean, I love it. And I haven't been to one in LA, though I hear it's excellent.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't like this shower in the middle room. I'm sorry.
Well, if you go to Nomad in Vegas, the bathtub's in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
Because in the 50s, that's what it was like, and that's what they're replicating.
Oh, interesting.
But you know, it's interesting when you said like you're an easy customer. I always say that too. I'm an easy customer until I'm not.
That's right.
And a long line or a hair on my pillow, like unacceptable. So as long as everything is smooth, I'm the easiest customer in the world.
Listen, it's simple, and have it clean. And look, the architecture of the hotel is a whole other topic. You know, how are the rooms laid out? Did you get a room with a view of a brick wall? You know, there are a lot of different things, but the fundamentals, nice bed, decent room, clean, quick service. Everybody wants a fast check-in. If you've got a line and you're disorganized up there, it's a bad sign.
Yeah, a line today is unacceptable. And I think technology is fixing that, but in most places. But you know, whether it's your business or my business, I remember being on your sets, you know, Orville specifically, and it's very intense and very complicated. But once you see the final product, it looks easy, and that's the same thing in the hotel industry. It's very complicated. It's very intense. There's a lot of parts going into it. But as soon as you open that door, you're like, oh, they just took the plastic off it. It's a brand new hotel. Wow, that was easy. And so if you're really good at your craft, which you are, obviously, it looks easy. And I think I'm relatively good at my craft. So when you go to these hotels that look flawless, the general manager and the owner, more important, the owner is good at their craft.
And that's such a great point. There's so much going on behind the scenes that you don't see. You know, I was having dinner on the rooftop of the Waldorf Astoria last weekend here, right down the street from my office in Beverly Hills, which is an amazing hotel.
Yeah, it really
We've
is.
been there. We've been
Yeah,
there.
I was there in January.
And there was like some kind of fire alarm went off. It was a false alarm, but not taking any chances, I got up to leave and ended up taking the stairs because the elevator was offline, and ended up for some reason behind the scenes. The first floor didn't go into the lobby. It went into like a service area, and it was like as placid and beautiful as the hotel was back there. People were running around like it was like stepping behind the scenes of a set.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that in Orville because I remember being where the craft services was, and it was, you know, not hectic, but people were busy. And then all of a sudden, I went onto the set, and Seth MacFarlane is literally standing there, and you're talking to him, and everything was just like so ready to go. And I never told you this, but I was so scared because you guys were so intense talking to each other. I was like, I remember, I was like, I went to your assistant, and I was like, put me somewhere in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So
By the way, I felt exactly the same on your set, and it's like I just like I'm in the way. I please don't notice me. I'm
yeah. And, anyway, so
one other thing I want to mention too that is only in thinking about this podcast, I thought about, you know, what are the things I like about state of the art. I don't want an old TV. I want things to be updated. You know, I want things. I want the cutting edge, especially if it's an expensive hotel. I expect everything to be up to date.
You expect the way you live, the way you travel.
the electronics in the room,
Mm-hmm.
fixtures in the bathroom. I want things to be as modern as they can be within reason.
Right. And it's so funny you talk. I'll talk to you off air on our next vision of our show. I'm going to get your perspective because it has a lot to do with technology and how technology is changing travel. And we'll talk off air.
And I also want to say, I tried in a recent trip for work to Canada. I for the very first time, just because I wanted to, and it was an extended stay, and I didn't like the places that the studio was picking for me. I tried one of these apps.
Mm-hmm.
These, I don't know what they're called.
Third-party apps, not from the hotel brand, but from another company.
And if anybody thinks this is going to replace the hotel industry or impact it in any way, what a terrible experience. Nothing even close to it. These are not hospitality professionals. Crap. Total crap.
I want to hug you. I wish you were here because
I know.
Did I tell you my idea going off air? Okay, probably not. But there's this in my business, right? There's several businesses. My business, we are actually having a meeting tomorrow at 4:00, and I see a niche of what you just talked about. I can't talk about it here, but a niche of what you just said. And a lot of brands and everybody's trying to be in that business, but all that is an extension of the hotel business that people forgive because it's cheaper. Well, guess what? It's not cheaper anymore, and people aren't forgiving it. So we have a fix to that, and I'll talk to both of you off air.
Yeah, I wish they had something where it would place me in certain hotel rooms that maybe. I guess that there are.
Well, with the major brands, you could more often
not higher end
hotel room.
I don't know. All I can say is, these rentals for the birds, man. It's a ripoff. You don't know who you're dealing with. It's awful, and I'll never do it again.
Well, I will say that it is becoming a more sophisticated industry, and companies like Marriott that has a homes and villas section, that might be something good for you to kind of get the best of both worlds with the confidence of the brand name and a great location. Yeah.
I had a question for you about the Marriott. So when I was in New York City, Anthony, and I wish I'd had the time. I was only there for one day for a film festival. I stayed at a really nice hotel, and it was called. It was on Central Park. I wrote it down, and I was thinking to myself, "What a great boutique hotel!" It was really, really nice. And I found out it was a Marriott, and it wasn't advertised as a Marriott.
It wasn't.
Is it an autograph collection hotel?
Yes.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, I think so. What the? I can't.
Which was on Central Park's an autograph now, Glenn?
I'm not sure.
The edition. The edition.
Okay, the edition. All right, makes sense.
Okay, so I was like, this is well appointed. It's fresh. The people working there are on point. They're friendly. They're quick. I'm like, this is a nice hotel, and I find out it's a Marriott. And then I'm traveling soon up to Northern California on a business trip, and there's another hotel that's not advertised as a Marriott, but it's another one of the. Is this a new business model for them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, your autograph was started about 15 years ago now, Glenn?
10, 12, maybe. Yeah, maybe 15, maybe. I'm getting old.
Business need for I don't know if this story is public, but it came out of a business need for a guy out of Georgia, and he kind of started the first autograph with Marriott for various reasons. So what they do, like with the Algonquin, which I ran, they basically white label the hotel. So all the systems behind the scene are all Marriott, and they're the best systems in the industry. But the personality of the hotel is independent and feels like something different. Matter of fact, the general manager of that hotel you just stayed at is now the general manager of the Ritz-Carlton Nomad. But that hotel you're talking about is not an autograph. That's actually a brand that stands by itself within Marriott. Is that correct, John?
Yeah. The way it works is Marriott's got 30 different brands right now. All the major hotel companies have been
32.
consolidating. 32. See, they keep growing so much. You're never sure. So they have the autograph collection, which allows independent owners to retain that spirit of independence while tapping into some of the benefits of the Marriott system without having to deal with all the incredible standards you might find at the Marriott Marquis, for example. So it's a little bit more creative, you know. So
and the key for me, and this is probably not politically correct, but a lot of times they take somebody that was running a standard Marriott and they put them in these 5-star hotels, and those general managers haven't had quite great success, in my opinion, in some of these hotels. When they take someone like the gentleman that you're talking about at that hotel, is now working at the Ritz, he comes from 5-star. He comes from that level of hotel. So he understands you as a customer. You as a customer, as a guest, is easy. You're an easy guest because you've been used to that standard. The second that standard goes below, you're done. You're not giving them a second and third chance. And he understands that level of guest. That's really what the difference of general manager is to understand that level of guest and to provide that level of service. And I met him the other day. I did a tour of the hotel, the Ritz-Carlton. What a gentleman. Just what a great hotelier, and fantastic hotel. So next time you're in the area, stay at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad.
And I'll say, you're talking about focusing on the guest and stuff like that. And I'm finding a lot of TV doesn't necessarily focus directly on the end user, the customer. That's why I'm liking the Orville. I have to keep reminding myself, Brannon, that it's not Star Trek, because it has that same kind of positive vibe and energy that modern Star Trek seems to have lost now that it's on Paramount Plus. But every time I watch the Orville, when they say the Union, I keep hearing the Federation and stuff like that in my brain in a lot of ways. And that's because, you know, you really cut your teeth. I think you started as an intern on Next Generation, like 1990 or something.
1990, yep.
Like that, right? And working your way up to be a co-producer in the last season of the shows, writing one of my favorite TV series finales, All Good Things, which I really think put a nice button on it. I know you're a TV fan, probably. Before we get more into Star Trek, my two other favorite TV finales, I think, are The Good Place, which did a really terrific job in wrapping it up, and Newhart, which I think is the best TV show finale of all time.
Best final moment.
Yep, right.
But you know, the set you're standing on, the backdrop, which is the Next Generation Bridge, feels a little bit like a really nice hotel.
Right.
In fact, by design, so does the Orville. By design, Gene Roddenberry wanted a ship where families live. Like, this was a long-term interstellar mission that would last for years.
That's right.
They had to live there. So it wasn't one of these crazy technology. He wanted the technology to be clean and invisible, and the place to be very inviting.
When I worked on the Orville set, I felt like I was in a 5-star hotel. I told the Glenn, you wouldn't know you were on a set. I felt like I was in a 5-star hotel. It felt like at that level of environment.
Clean, sleek, pleasing, great lighting.
Right.
These are aesthetically, there is a hotel quality to it.
I think that's pretty awesome. It's so cool to watch that show and see, like, the whole notion of the sort of utopian future where we all get to pursue what we want to do in our lives, free from the shackles of having to worry about, earning a salary, because everything is just available to you. And it allows you to really just focus on those human elements. And one of the things that I find was so fabulous about Star Trek and currently the Orville, but is lacking a lot of other science fiction over there, is the ability to tell stories about modern society while using other worldly type of adventures. I find that today a lot of science fiction is hitting you over the head with it, as opposed to the subtleties that you saw in the original Star Trek series, for example, where you had that man who was half black and half white, and it was really a great opportunity for them to discuss racial issues in the 1960s.
So that was a bit heavy-handed.
A little bit.
But I'm very radical, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Adele is saying 6 Feet Under's final episode was took my breath away. Yes, that was a great last 10 minutes as well of a TV show. So how did these ideas come to you? Obviously, you had an active imagination. When I was in high school, I sold comic books and I loved that whole kind of universe of heroes and sci-fi stories and stuff like that. You must have had some sort of upbringing that got your brain focusing on telling those types of stories. How did that germinate within you?
Um, First and foremost, I'm a movie lover. I see as many movies as possible. I just love movies. I watch TV too, though my taste in television's pretty lowbrow. You know,
Yeah.
I used to watch.
That's why I watch Hotel Impossible.
But look, I've always had an interest in science and read a lot of science fiction. And some of the greatest movies ever made are science fiction movies. Some of the first movies ever made are science fiction.
Like Metropolis is one of the most impactful films.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So I just always had an interest in it, and I guess my favorite TV show would have been The Twilight Zone, which is kind of a blend of science fiction and horror and fantasy. And Star Trek was the perfect venue for me. I was very lucky to land there as an intern because it allowed me to it was an anthology show in my mind. I could kind of tell any kind of story that we could come up with and put it in a science fiction context. I always started with concepts first and found the themes therein. Like I found that if you started with a topic, a social topic you wanted to explore isn't an idea. Mm-hmm. It usually started with a cool science fiction notion that evolved into a metaphor for something.
So let me ask you a
Wait,
question.
hold on. Like the episode Darmok from 1991, where they communicated in metaphors and the Enterprise crew didn't understand them until they had that kind of revelation on how to connect with somebody in a way that you're not familiar with.
So my good friend Joe Manosky wrote that episode. So the way that started was Dances with Wolves had just come out, which was a very popular movie at the time with Kevin Costner. And a big component of that movie was Costner learning to communicate with these Native American tribes. And we wanted to do our version of that kind of story.
Right.
And we broke the story out and had all the plot maneuvers, but it was the writer, Joe, who came up with the language of the other species. We had not come up with the idea of a species communicating purely in metaphor. That was all him. And when I remember reading the script and just being absolutely blown away by it. And it went on to become a classic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Anthony's like, what the...
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And Glenn and I did our purpose separating our questions because I don't watch sci-fi, and I'm not. I'm a big You fan. I'm not a big sci-fi fan. I love you, and we have a good friendship, but I don't. That's not my genre. But what's interesting to me, hotel business and your business is similar in the sense of behind the scenes, you guys work like animals, from writing to producing, like animals. I mean, every time I'm on your set, I feel like it's we're about to open a hotel. It has that level of intensity, and the actors are working hard, and your work. It's just really, really an incredible place to see real work.
Yeah.
When you're an intern, and I have some other friends that kind of work behind the scenes, and they all have a story of when they were an intern, and there was that moment, kind of like in the hotel business. I was recognized when I was younger, and I was separated and say, okay, you are crazy, you are intense, you work really, really hard. I was fast tracked, right? Because of my level of energy and intensity. Where was the moment where somebody like looked at you and go, okay, he needs to be with me because he's crazy and he has the level of intensity and thought that we need? Was there that moment? Or was it just one foot in front of the other and eventually here you are?
I mean, I think the first script that I rewrote and worked on was received really well, and they saw something. And then I wrote another one that wasn't so good. And I'm like, I'm never going to write I'm going to I was determined never to write a crappy script again. I think it was just it wasn't a moment, but maybe it was just a certain level of consistency. And I think there were a couple episodes I did that surprised my bosses at the time who were running the show. Like there was an episode about a time loop with the ship trapped in a time loop.
Mhm.
Called Cause and Effect, that everybody just thought was a weird experiment that turned out to be enormously popular. And I think they started to realize there was something, I was doing something right. And look, success, and I'm sure it's the same in your business.
Mhm.
People have to take an interest in you. You don't do it independently. Even as a writer, it is not a solo experience. Somebody has to take an interest in you and help you along the way. And that I had 2 or 3 people I was working for that, thank goodness, did that.
How do you go from being that intern to having the opportunity to rewrite that script you're talking about? Like that's a big jump.
I don't know. That was my mentor, Michael Pillar, who's dead now, but he saw something in me. He brought me on as an intern because he saw something in me. And he, I guess in the 8 weeks I was there as an intern, thought was worth taking a chance on. It was a rewrite of a script. He paired me up with another writer on staff named Ron Moore.
Oh, wow.
And how did you meet him?
My mentor?
Yeah.
Yeah, through the internship.
Yeah, there was an internship called the Academy of TV Arts and Sciences that has an internship every year. They still do it in all categories of television, and from costume design to makeup to writing. And it was just by chance that I ended up on. I almost got placed on some sitcom that lasted for 10 episodes. I just got very lucky in where I was placed. And by the way, I want to mention what I love about filmmaking is that it encompasses all the arts, clothing design, makeup, hair, photography, acting, writing, editing. It involves sound, it involves everything. And in the same way, I think it is analogous. The hotel business encapsulates all of the hospitality businesses. And
it's exactly why I love this business, Brandon. I say that all the time.
So it is analogous in that regard. And, when you were doing Hotel Impossible, it was a little different than Bar Rescue or Restaurant Impossible in that you were having, like, a hotel has a restaurant too, most hotels, and a bar, sometimes multiples, and and all the other things. It has recreational areas. It has so much going on that encompasses all of it, a lot of different businesses. And I always wondered, like, what an overwhelming experience. You couldn't possibly tackle all the issues.
Yeah. And, one of the things I tell everyone that gets into the business is if you have a restaurant is the most difficult business in the world, right? But the one thing about a restaurant is you see the kitchen, you see, in most cases, you see the guest, you see the front of the house, and you literally can just spin around and see everything. In a hotel, you see almost nothing, okay? Because you have people cleaning rooms, you have reservations coming in from, Africa. You have no idea really what's going on in your hotel. So if you don't have systems in place that are almost fail-proof, and then you have people that you'll take a bullet for, if you have those two things, then you can run a hotel. If one of those two things are lacking, everything will collapse. I always say that 2 or 3 people can get enough money between their family to open a restaurant. Very few people can afford to buy a hotel because they're very, very expensive. So when you do that, you invest in people. Like those people that are running those hotels we were talking about, they're very expensive. And they're expensive because they've been doing this a long time, and they're very, very intelligent people that understand systems. They understand technology, and more important than anything, they understand people. It's like when you're interviewing for a person in the hotel business, there's got to be a vibe. When you have something that you wrote on paper, that person when they walk into your office for an audition, that kind of like, you feel it because you wrote it. It's the same thing in hotel business. If I'm developing a hotel, I know what needs to be in that person. They can say hello, and I know I'm going to give them the job. So yeah, I think it's very similar. I think that's why you and I see the world kind of the same way.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, it's pretty simple. The hotel industry is complicated by people, and if you keep it simple, it's pretty fun. And like you said, again, we have high standards, but clean room, nice people, and
the biggest compliment that I could pay a hotel is I've gone someplace and if I don't want to leave the room, even if what's outside is beautiful,
Yep.
you've done something right.
Yeah.
That's the Nomad to me in Vegas.
That's
I don't ever want they put me in a beautiful suite in the Nomad. It's true. I don't. One day, Glenn knows this. I was in Vegas and I had 3 different speaking gigs with 3 different business things, and I had the Mansions, I had the Aria, Skyloft, and I had the Nomad. And I felt bad because I didn't want to stay in the other 2. So I made believe I stayed in the other 2. When I didn't, I went there, I checked in, and I just left. And I stayed at the Nomad simply because I didn't want to leave the room.
That's too funny.
So the Mansion. So I stayed at the Mansion long while ago. Is that still the secret hotel?
Yeah.
Behind the MGM Grand.
That's the hotel that nobody knows of but you, me, and Glenn.
Yeah. And I got to see it, and I felt so spoiled for being able to see it.
I stayed there. I had a travel agent who was incredibly well connected, and I was staying there, and the other person staying there at the time was Elton John.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So like this, it's like if you're wondering where these megastars stay, it's not. It's.
I'm surprised you guys, whoever your travel agent is, I hope you still work with them, because it's impossible to stay there. Yeah. It's like you can't stay there.
No, you
in an alley. It's like it's this. Yep. It's a hotel behind a hotel, and it's stunning.
It really feels like mansions.
Yeah,
it has its own. Matter of fact, I was in one of the rooms. I was doing a tour of the room. My friend runs it, and we're in the room, and I go, "Wow, this is a beautiful lobby." He goes, "It's the living room of the suite."
Yeah, that's too funny. Before
we're not cheap.
No, before we wrap up, we're gonna have to do that in a minute or two. We had a good question. What's that? Yeah, boom, flies by. So you mentioned early on at the Las Vegas Hilton, the amazing Star Trek experience was there. Now and today, Disney, which also works with the Orville, created that Star Wars hotel. Though that's more of a LARPing experience, it's live action role play for people that don't know. I think there's an opportunity to use existing IP that you've worked on just to create a great hotel experience. What do you think about themed hotels in general, and maybe ones that tell stories in a movie sort of way?
I think they're one. I love them. I love the idea of them. I'm not sure that I would stay in them, but like one of my favorite restaurant experiences growing up was this restaurant in the Blue Bayou. It might have been called the Blue Bayou in Disneyland, and
that's exactly what it is.
Swamp themed. They have fake fireflies darting about.
Yep.
Cool air being pumped in, fog, and you truly are transported to another place. Yep. And while you're having your meal, and it's really cool. And I often think I wish more places did stuff like this, but then again, I'm not sure after a long day of travel, especially if I'm there on business, that I want to see a bunch of stormtroopers running around.
Real quick,
I don't think it's my cup of tea.
I know you got to go then, but real quick, when I worked for Miller Global, MGM asked us to come out to do we went to the studio. Actually, we had our name on the key, in lights. It was amazing. And we go into the theater. They showed us the library and the museum of MGM, and they wanted us to. And we spent 2 days on whiteboarding how we bring MGM into the hospitality business. And unfortunately, that all went away. But we spent a lot of time in the next couple of weeks after that, kind of coming up with a personality and a brand for MGM.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Fascinating, yeah.
Brannon, before we let you go, tell us real quick about The End Is Nye, premiering on Peacock on August 25th.
Yeah, at Peacock on August 25th. All episodes will drop at once. There's 6 world-ending disasters and how science can save us.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing it. Brannon Braga, thank you so much for being here. I really
Thanks, guys.
appreciate you.
Good seeing you.
It was a
Thank you
pleasure
so
to
much.
talk to you, my friend. Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. I really enjoyed that. Unfortunately, I got to go. My son Ben has a driver's test. I've got to take him there. So, guys, download the audio version of our podcast. If you're listening on audio, watch the video podcast. Any final word, Anthony?
No, it was just a pleasure and honor, and to have a friend like him that just comes on and spur of the moment, and
Yep.
it's a big get, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
Be kind to yourself.
see you later.
Don't talk over the graphic.
Oh,